On this episode of the 10 Code Podcast, we're discussing school safety and the newly created School Safety Division at the Murfreesboro Police Department. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Public Safety Information Officer Larry Flowers. Today's guest is School Safety Division Commander Captain Don Fanning.
How you doing, Larry?
I'm great, Captain Fanning. Thanks for joining us.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today.
We all know school safety is a concern, not only here in Murfreesboro, but nationwide. And that's one of the reasons Police Chief Michael Bowen decided to implement this new School Safety Division. And Captain Fanning, let's jump right into it. What prompted the Murfreesboro Police Department to start this new division?
Well, I think, Larry, like everybody in America, our primary focus, our primary goal of all things is to make sure our students, our teachers, our faculty, and our school buildings are safe and they have a quality learning environment. And I think that's really become a focus across America for a lot of agencies. That's how important it is. Our kids are our most important resource. And so, we realize that we have to really tailor what we do because a school environment is a unique environment. It really is compared to the rest of policing. I think most of America thinks of a police officer in a police car riding around.
Right.
And our mission in the schools is not exactly the same. So we really have to tailor our thought process and our planning toward that specific issue.
So what will be the primary responsibilities of this new School Safety Division?
Well, really, a lot of this stuff has to do with forming plans to keep our kids safe. A lot of it will have to do about us, our school resource officers being intentional about some de-escalation, about dealing with, unique juvenile behavior. Because juveniles, they're not the same as adults. A lot of times we have kids that are struggling in our schools with a lot of issues at home and things that are outside of the schools that come into the schools. And so a lot of prevention, a lot of planning for those things, and a lot of preparation. As I tell people, what we do, everybody in America today worries about a bad actor coming to one of our schools and harm our kids. And that's true. And that is job one. That's goal number one, is prevent that. But there's a lot of other things that happen in our schools, things like, tornadoes happen. Right. What happens if a fire alarm goes off? There's a fire in our school. Are we prepared for that? What happens when just an angry or mad parent comes in and they're upset about something? How do we deal with those issues? So we're trying to make sure that our folks are prepared for a lot of different things, like I said, because working in a school is unique. It is not the same as a lot of other places. Some things are similar, but not everything is.
Well, how will this new School Safety Division work with Murfreesboro City Schools to, keep our students and our teachers and staff members, safe?
Well, I think, really what we're after, Larry, is to create a whole culture of awareness in our schools. That this is not we do some things and the school does something. I think we have to work together as a team.
Right.
And we really want to create a culture where it's not just the police officers who are thinking about our kids, but it's everybody that works in that school. Our teachers, our administrators. What about our maintenance people who walk in the doors? What about our vendors? We want it to become a collaborative approach so everybody looks at our schools and go, what can I do to make them safer today? Right. How can I make this a better program?
Well, what measures are being taken to ensure, safety?
Well, Larry, I don't want to get into specifics because there are some things that, we don't want to talk about in the public for obvious reasons. But I'll tell you this, we train our folks to deal with a wide variety of issues, like we talked about before. There's a lot of things we work on, and we're constantly looking at our plans and saying, what more can we do to make this better? As society changes, as things change throughout this country, we look at those things and go, how can we be at the forefront? We don't want to be behind everybody. We want to be the cutting edge. That's our desire, and we're always looking at those plans.
How has school safety procedures changed since, in light of recent school shootings?
Sure. Well, I think I've been in this game a long time. It's not my first day. And unfortunately, I have to say, I remember when Columbine happened. If you look at, what everybody across the country did when Columbine happened, I think every time there's an incident in this country, we stop and we look at it and go, what can we learn from that? And, now you see so much more. You see, are the doors on our schools, are they locked? Do we have cameras in place? Do we have people who know who to call about, suspicious people? Are people willing to get involved and do that? We give our our officers training on what to do if there's a bad person who shows up at our school. And that could be anything from, like I said, an angry parent to somebody who really wants to come in and do harm to our kids. And so we specialize our training to deal with that.
Right. And you mentioned Columbine. I'm going to take you back a little further.
Yeah.
I was working as a TV news reporter in Jackson, Mississippi, and a student by the name of Luke Woodham at Pearl High School killed his mom at home, went to school, and started shooting students. And so to actually be there right after it happened and how surreal that was.
Yes.
And that sort of leads to the next question. How can parents and students, what can they do to help police? What can they do to help their SROs and maintain safety of the schools?
I think, one thing that I see that's really key is that you have to look at things before they happen. Prevention. My mom used to say when I was a kid, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure, right? I think we've all heard that from our mom at some point. And I think really the thing is we have to take things seriously. We have to recognize some of the danger signs we see when kids are struggling. Sometimes kids struggle in a lot of ways. They struggle in today's world. There's so much pressure on them today, with the internet, and we have bullying issues. We have kids who come from a home situation, which isn't always good, and so I think when we talk about the term, see something, say something, we really mean that. Take those things seriously. Tell us. We would rather come out and look at something and go, okay, this is really not nothing, or, hey, this kid needs some help and we're going to get them the help, than we had to respond to another tragedy. So we really mean, hey, when you see somebody suspicious loitering around a school or something you think is unusual, that's strange. Why? That shouldn't be that way. Say something. Pick up a phone, call us. Say if you're a teacher or administrator or you're a parent, say something to our SROs in the school. That's a key thing for us. Prevention is always better.
And recently the governor, signed legislation to allow funding for SROs. Would Murfreesboro Police be able to take advantage?
Yep.
Of that?
We are in that process as we speak. With anything like that, any kind of grant program, there's some paperwork that has to get done, and we're in the midst of paperwork. So yeah, we definitely will be participating in that. We think it's a great opportunity for us, and we're appreciative that the governor and that the legislature has seen fit to help us fund that. And to be honest, our city council, our mayor, and the chief, all being supportive of anything that we find in our schools. They've looked at us and said, "Do it. We'll help you be successful." I don't think there's a single person in America that doesn't want us to be successful in protecting the kids in our community. Right. Again, when I say that they're our most important resource, they're our future. So I really mean that. They really are. And I am so glad to have a department and a city that we live in that is so supportive of that.
And I guess that leads me into the next question. I did a little research, and there are not too many police departments and sheriff's departments or law enforcement agencies that have dedicated an entire division to school safety, like Murfreesboro Police has. Since this is so new, do you hope to build a successful model for school safety that could be implemented nationwide?
Oh yeah, I think that is our goal. I'll give our chief a lot of credit for this because he's always been really forward thinking, and this is one of the things where he said, "This is important for us. How can we lead? Mm-hmm. We don't want to be behind. We want to lead in this area." It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. But I'm glad that I get to be a part of this. I think this is important stuff. Other agencies I know, in today's world of police work, hiring enough police officers is an issue. Funding is an issue. These are all things. But us being able to say it's that much of a priority to us. And I think that by itself puts us in a class of doing really well. And we're truly blessed to be in a position to do it.
Well, how do you see us balancing the need for school safety, but yet have a welcoming learning environment for those students?
Sure. Well, I think like everybody in America, we talk about this culture that we try to create, and that part of that culture is what? Building relationships. We try to build relationships with our administrators, with our teachers, and our kids every day, because that's how you really get work done in America. I tell people, imagine if you walked into your new job today and nobody was friendly. Nobody smiled at you. Nobody was welcoming. man, pretty soon, are you going to be happy working there, and are you going to do your best work?
Right.
Or do you want to be in a position where you feel like other people care about your well-being, they support you, they want you to be successful? That breeds success among other people, and that's why I tell people, relationships are important. You don't trust what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We want people to know our SROs. We want people to know their police officers. Why? Because that's the times that people are going to say to us, hey, I see something unusual. Something's not right here. They're not going to talk to a stranger as much as they're going to talk to somebody who says, come talk to me.
Right.
Let's work on this together.
Sure. And last week, I think you and I were over at Northfield Elementary School with SRO Glass, and he had mentioned that the reason he wanted to become an SRO is because of an SRO being his mentor when he was in school. Yeah.
Man, you're talking about a success story, not necessarily in our agency, but I think that just underscores the importance of an SRO program. Mm-hmm. You're planting seeds today that we're going to see the fruit of in 10, 15, 20 years. And Officer Glass's case, that's exactly, what it is. Here we are 20 years after that SRO had such a huge impact. And if you imagine, if you're one kid out of a school, there's one SRO, but one SRO made that big of a difference in one person's life that now he's continuing that legacy. And that's awesome.
During the last week of July, Murfreesboro Police and other first responders here in the city and county came together for some training at Overall Creek Elementary School. What did that training entail?
Well, I think for obvious reasons, Larry, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the things we did, but I'll tell you this, our job, all first responders anyway, to begin with, we want to work and be as efficient and do a great job as we can. And a lot of that comes with working together ahead of time, preparing ahead of time, and not just first responders. And we involved other people in our community, some other stakeholders, people from our school systems and other agencies, because we want to prepare for the worst. If we're prepared for the worst, then we're prepared for anything less. And then the less things just become inconvenient.
Right.
And so it was a great opportunity to learn. We did a lot of work, and we said, hey, what can we improve on? Is there anything that we missed? Is there something we overlooked? Because sometimes we all miss things.
Right.
And that was just a great way for us to identify things that we went, hey, this is good, but we can make it even better.
Right. And we did a couple of scenarios, with students being in the building, without students, just various scenarios that that these first responders can learn what to do in case, something like this happens, and we pray that it never happens in our city.
That's it. Yeah, it's our biggest fear. But that's what we prepare for. We have to. It's the world we live in today. It's not, if it was up to me, it would be completely different. But that's what we can do, is we prepare, we try to prevent, and if we can't prevent it, then we're going to get in the way and stop it.
Right. And a lot of departments and agencies across the state did similar training. And a lot of them reacted to what happened in Nashville with the Covenant school shooting. That's not the case here. We've been training for years.
We have. We've had SROs in our schools, for years. This is not something we've come up with, having SROs, but now it's more of an intentional focus. The planning that we had in plan for that particular event you were talking about that we did a couple of weeks ago, we have been planning that since before the end of last school year. Why? Because we wanted to make sure that our SROs are all prepared, and the skills, some of those skills, they're perishable skills that we have to practice. We have to keep that sword sharp, if you will, as my daddy used to say. And we have to work on those things. And like I said, this is not something we said, oh, well, we're going to react to what happened.
Right.
We were already in the planning processes. We knew this was coming, and it was already scheduled.
Right. I guess parents can rest easily knowing that MPD has, their school covered. All of our campuses, equipped with SROs. Full-time SROs, not shared, not part-time, full-time.
You're right.
So how can parents rest easily knowing that we have their child's school covered?
Well, earlier I talked a little bit about relationships. Those relationships run both ways. Our SROs get to know those kids and those teachers in that school, and they treat them like family.
Right.
And, I want the parents to know that we're going to defend your kids just like they are our kids, because they are. Those relationships are that important to us. that we're going to do everything possible to keep your kids safe every day we come into that school.
You were really detailed in explaining, and really appreciate that. But is there anything else that you want to add that I failed to ask you concerning school safety and this new school safety division here at MPD?
Well, I think, like anything, when I talked about relationships, I keep hitting that because it's so important. Our relationship with the schools, with Dr. Duke, and his staff at Murfreesboro City Schools have been incredible. Our opportunity and our relationships with the other law enforcement partners that we have here are important to us, and we're just really grateful that we have a team of people that are all willing to come together for the same goal,
right,
which is keeping our kids safe. And it's amazing to see how many people say, I'll give up my time, I'll give up my materials, I'll give up whatever it takes to get to that goal, because nobody gets here alone.
Right.
We didn't get to this point, and nor will we get to where we want to be by ourselves. Nobody does. It has to be a team effort, and that's what really makes me happy. It's when I see it's not just MPD doing this. There are other agencies around the state that they're looking to do the same things. I'm talking to people in other agencies every day. Everybody in the world of first responders is looking for, how do we keep this safe? How do we prevent this from happening? How do we mitigate the things that might come from it? And for me, that's exciting part of this, is that we hate tragedies. We wish that they never occurred, but I want people to know that we're doing everything we can think of to work together to make it the best possible chance of keeping our kids safe.
Great. We've been discussing school safety and the new school safety division that was recently created here at the Murfreesboro Police Department. Thank each of you for joining us. The Public Safety Podcast originates from the headquarters of the Murfreesboro Police Department. Thanks for listening via Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Audible, and Google Podcast. You can also watch the podcast online on YouTube. The Public Safety Podcast is produced by Michael Nevels. For more information on the public safety and the fast-growing city of Murfreesboro, visit our website, www.murfreesborotn.gov. Until next time, I'm Larry Flowers. Have a great day.